All right, this may be an abbreviated news report, but definitely it's the World Edition, and we're going to give you at least a brief news report and see if anybody shows up. But three American service members were killed and dozens injured in a drone attack on a base. So that is something that we're seeing in the news. And also, Kate, the Princess of Wales, is out of the hospital after abdominal surgery. So that is good news in that space. And China Evergrande receives a liquidation order in a property crisis milestone. So a number of things are happening around the world, including Iran executing four convicted of an Israeli bomb plot. So that is something else that we are seeing. And Gaza Aid Agency says it is extremely desperate after funding has halted. So that is something else that we're going on. And some folks, Nancy Pelosi, says suggesting that some um, pro-Palestinian protesters are connected to different groups and all along those lines. So she's saying that they may have ties to Russia. So that is something that she is saying, and it'll be interesting to see if other people agree. And for Europe and NATO, a Russian invasion is no longer unthinkable. So that is something that a lot of people are concerned about as well. And protesting farmers are tightening their squeeze on France's government with a siege of definitely a lot of things as France is to push for EU law changes as farmers block the Paris highways. And French farmers drive 1,000 tractors toward Paris in a blockade threat. So that is something else that we are seeing in the news as well. An Israeli president says the UN World Court misrepresented his comments in its genocide case. So we're seeing that as well. The International Court of Justice is ruling on Israel test international law. And the Yemen's Houthis rebels say they attacked a U.S. warship without evidence. So that is something else that we are seeing in the news. And a secret EU plan to sabotage Hungarian economy revealed as anger mounts at Orban. So Brussels threatens to hit Hungary's economy if Orban vetoes Ukraine aid. So that is something else that we are seeing in the news. And disposable vapes are to be in the news as well. But right now, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Rao, who's here to give us a news report. And he's got a lot of things going on. So we're going to turn it over to Steve Rao and see who else joins us as well.
Sorry, Mark, I'm late. And I don't wear a tie anymore for this show. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm going to start doing that. Wearing my All America shirt. We greet you live from Morrisville. I want to wish you all in North Carolina, the eighth largest state in the union. Welcome you to World Edition. And today I want to open up with the crisis in hand. The three Americans killed in a drone attack in Jordan, 35 injured. This puts President Biden in a very difficult situation in terms of how does he respond without escalating the situation in the Middle East, but he's got to do something. And all of this 8 months before a presidential campaign where the Middle East really has become a significant problem and challenge for the president, while he continues to talk about the positive effects of Bidenomics, the fact that inflation is coming down, unemployment is lower than it's ever been, around 3.5%, 14 million jobs created. In North Carolina, over 882,000 provided broadband access, internet bills dropping by $30 a month, and many, many investments, $31 billion of investments in where we live, Mark Lee and I live in North Carolina, largely because of the CHIPS Act. With all that being said, a couple of other things going on. We congratulate the Kansas City Chiefs for going back in to the Super Bowl. Sorry it didn't work out for the Lions. And a court in Hong Kong has ordered the Evergrande, a Chinese property giant, to liquidate because of its debt of over $300 billion. Japan's spacecraft resumed operations more than a week after landing on the moon. JAXA, the Japan Space Agency, said the Explorer had regained power after an issue with its solar panels. And the first test of popularity of Alternative for Germany was revealed that senior members of the party discussed with foreign groups plans to mass deport immigrants. And that's how I'm going to end my commentary today. I think it's very important for us to talk about the situation on the border. As one of the co-hosts of World Edition, I do think it's concerning that we now are over 10 to 12,000 migrants crossing the border a day. The mayor of New York City is saying that these refugees and migrants are costing New York City, the 50,000 that are there, $12 billion, and that's a lot of money. And we're just not seeing any movement, which I think is another thing the president has to do, particularly if he wants to be reelected, is coming up with some bipartisan solution to address the border issue, because President Trump, if he is a nominee, and now it's looking very likely he will be, will say, "I told you so," that I told you to build a wall, you didn't, and here we go. So, and I probably missed out on a few issues, Mark, but that's my quick update. And it's almost like watching the show 24. There's so many multiple plots going on right now. Can you just imagine the screen of all these different plots going on? And when you watch 24, it used to be 4. Now it's almost like 6, like a big screen TV with 6 little mini crises going on. And we get to discuss these things on World Edition and World Politics. So we are lucky in that regard. But I'll go ahead and let you get started. Sorry, got a bad cold today. Mark, are you there? Oh, we lost Mark. Oh, there he is. Sasha Starr, thank you for being here.
Hi.
Well, tell me a little bit about what's going on in your world and any insight about this attack on American troops and things like that.
It's all tied in it's all together. It just shows incredible weakness of foreign policy of the United States. I would say that at the present, most likely it has none. And in this situation, I can justify that the U.S. keeps probably well over 60,000 troops in different Arab countries, from Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, and just almost any country in that region. And they basically represent themselves as sitting ducks. It's just waiting for when one of these terrorist groups will launch attack, killing U.S. soldiers. And this is incredible weakness, because with the firepower that U.S. has, it can easily liquidate all these militant groups and actually strike on Iran, because Iran is behind all these attacks, regardless what they're denying it or confirming. It doesn't matter. It's obviously evil power in that region, and that power has to be, if not completely demolished, at least to make sure that it's no longer projects and is doing this horrible things, what it does, because it's behind all these militant groups, including Hamas, and all that's what's going on there. It just bleeds the U.S. and its allies, and it should not happen. It's same thing as a projection of horrible weakness in Ukraine, where Biden had all possibilities to provide Ukraine with the modern weapons, and Ukraine could basically achieve a lot in their counterattack, but they couldn't because they didn't get the weapons, and those that were getting, they were getting with much delays. And now, recently, Pentagon says that it can no longer refurbish and service existing weapons that it provided Ukraine with, because they don't have the money. Pentagon has no money. It's a wonderful message to all U.S. and free world enemies. Pentagon has no money. Listen to that.
Yeah,
so what do we have?
Well, I think the foreign policy is terrible. We're waiting for Mark Lee to come back. Oh, there he's back. Okay, Mark.
I'm back, but I'm actually at HeyTown where I'm working. We've got a bunch of librarians and archivists here, so I'm hoping that some other people will be joining us as well. But Sasha, just what is your take on what's going on with definitely what's happening in terms of Hungary, and definitely along those lines? We're hearing a lot about the Hamas explosives and how they came from IDF fire that failed to detonate. And actually, as I was catching the bus today, I saw that there was a major pro-Palestinian protest that was over there by Duke campus, and there was also one that was in Raleigh, our state capital. So I just wanted your take on this, and even the Houthis seizing a cargo ship, the Galaxy Leader, and apparently turning it into a tourist attraction. But any thoughts on any of those stories?
Well, it's coming from the same reason of obvious weakness of U.S. policy in Middle East. It's all coming now and being unraveled. And I think the US, it's time to project the power, to project the enormous advantage what US with its capacities have in that region. Demonstrate it, do something about it. Don't just be there as a sitting ducks waiting until somebody will kill few of your servicemen. And well, I was horrified when I found not only 3 servicemen were killed, but 34 were wounded, and some of them are very serious. So there will be even more deaths, unfortunately. And U.S. They have to respond. They have to go in, figure out the targets, kill the targets, and only then think, okay, what else we can do, or so on. It's when it's too much thinking and evaluating and so on, this is no longer response. Now we are talking about measured counter-terrorist action, which is in itself will be viewed as a terrorist action a while later. So it's no longer any action period. It's actually horrible things. Ones that happen in next 12, 15 minutes, response. You respond and then you think what else we should do, whether we are right or wrong. It doesn't matter. You have to respond, period. And it's not happening. Horrible.
Right. Mark, I know you have to run. I have to jump off at 10:30, so hopefully some more people will come on. Otherwise, we're going to have to end the show early today.
It may be an abbreviated show or something along those lines. We've done those on occasion. I know that even Sasha has done a 30-minute show, so it may be an abbreviated.
Well, no, I think this is great to have. I think Sasha's brought up some. Well, I've got to leave in about 15 minutes, but I'll continue to carry the show. Sorry, guys. It's just after COVID, work. All, at least for me, all COVID restrictions are lifted, so they're now no longer allowing Zoom meetings. So we have to go in person. So we started this 4 years ago when we were all working from home, and I still got to make a living, even though I'm in politics. So it's got to go do the job, right? But yeah, I think that at the end of the day, I'm really concerned about this foreign policy. I think that it's a real mess right now for Biden. And I do think that if I had to look at the race, I think the border issue is going to be a big problem for Biden. It could be countered with abortion and kind of those voters coming out. And of course, you talk about economy a little bit more, Sasha, as an analyst. But, I think that the economy is not as bad as we thought it was, but perception is always more important than reality. And when I say that, what I mean is that people, at least in the US, and I don't know what's going on in Canada, they're still paying higher prices. So just because you have inflation coming down doesn't necessarily mean that your groceries prices are going down, your gas prices are coming down, your housing prices are coming down, right? So people can say we're not in a recession, but they're feeling the pinch on their wallets, right? And that's kind of what Trump and all. I don't know what Donald Trump's going to do any differently. He acts like he's just going to, make the stock market boom again, and he's got no plans. He's just such a showman with no substance, right? But people buy it, and I don't know. I mean, I think if Trump is convicted of one of these charges, then I think that it could be really good for the president. But I think for President Biden, but only time will tell. What are they saying in Canada? I mean, you guys are looking at the U.S. going? I mean, we never really talk about that. Is that people looking at this going, how did this happen in America? How did we go from Obama to this?
In Canada, there is a certain its own economic data, the GDP and everything else, and they basically have their own policy on interest rates, which has to be sort of coordinated with the U.S., not to kill the balance between US and Canadian dollars. So Canada is very careful in that, and they're not seeking leadership in any position simply because Canadian economy is 10 times smaller than US, and therefore they don't Canada doesn't have any aspirations to become some kind of a world leader in economy or anything like that.
Right.
Now, U.S. The funny thing is that while economy is doing very well, it's not well, it's very well. The earnings of these companies, what reportings are going right now, it's earnings season, they're spectacular. Almost all of the companies that reporting so far, some of the earnings are good and some other very good, and yet there is another category which are amazing. And stock prices reflect it as well. It's going high. But you see, somehow, uh, if there is no message, most people are not reading financial papers or listening to financial programs. They have to be told, okay, our economy is doing better than ever. This is the result. This is what it shows. The message is not there. Uh, and I don't understand the purpose of it. Well, you
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes down to the messaging, Sasha. I mean, I think that, we're going to talk about some world politics tomorrow, but, you know what? You raise a really good point. I think I thought about this the other day. I think the Democrats are so focused on Trump that it may very well be that they're not focusing on their game, which is why they should be elected, right? In terms of focusing so much, we know Trump is crazy. We know, you and I have been saying this all along. He's saying crazy things. He's disrupting. He's making things up. And meanwhile, all the focus is, let's put him in jail. Let's put him in jail. He's an evil guy. He's a terrible guy. Rather than how are my policies creating jobs? How are my policies creating opportunities, right? How can I make the world a better place? And so it's like playing a tennis match. If you focus all on your opponent and you don't focus on your game, you can lose the match, right? You got to look at the scoreboard and say, okay, I'm not winning. How am I going to win, right? I mean, you watched, Australian Open, Sinner, congratulations. I was hoping for Novak, but it was good to see him get through a major, right? He was down 2-0. He had to figure out a way to win. He didn't stand there and just look at the Medvedev, from your former country, Russia, Soviet Union. And I was actually pulling from Medvedev. I love his game. I think he's a phenomenal athlete. And it was sad when people were crying when he was so sad he didn't do his best. I really like him. The people on the tour side like him. He's really grown on people. But that's kind of my analogy of what's going on with the Democrats. Such a focus on anti-Trump that, I think Trump, if he does win, it might be because of the border. I think people are so mad about the border situation right now, and he's really going to use that. And Biden needs to come up with some solution between now and November.
Solution is very simple. They have to send federal army to the border, arrest all these Texans or whoever they are, including Abbott himself, just arrest them and throw them in jail for resisting to federal government, and that's it. And there is no crisis anymore. And
yeah,
then,
but when there was Title 42, we were able, because of the public health emergency, which was put in by Trump, we often don't realize that the migrants went from 10,000 a day to 4,000 a day. And so now, when they lifted it, the problem is nothing was done. I mean, he put Kamala Harris in charge of this, the vice president, and they just kept coming in for droves. But of course, I understand the president, okay, let's also be fair to the president. Republicans don't want a solution, right? Because the more migrants that come over, they go, oh, look at this mess. Look at this mess. It's not our fault. It's Biden's fault. So they're not going to want to do any legislation. They've got no real political reason for a solution, right? That's kind of the thing. But Biden got to at least show them he's trying, right? Right now, he's looking like he's just letting them cross the border.
Okay, one thing is obvious, which is on the borderline of real crisis, is that the state is trying to take over from federal government the implementation of this immigrant crisis on the border, and that it should not happen. The federal obviously has a first violin to play, and if state is standing on its way, then whoever does it, the U.S. Army has to be brought in with all helicopters and tanks and everything and just take them out. Number one, this is much more serious issue than its size. 10 or 12 immigrants, 1,000 a day will cross or so on. What's the difference between 8 and 10 or 10 and 12 or 12 and 25? What's the difference? It's not difference. But the ability of a state power to fight federal power, this is far, far much more dangerous issue than the immigration and all this immigrants issue.
We're trying to bring in Lee. I don't have control anymore. It's usually Mark Lee that's the wizard. So I just sent a message to bring in Lee Newton Rhodes. I have to leave in 10 minutes. So hopefully, Sasha, you can keep going and then we'll bring Mark on. I apologize, folks. So we're waiting for Mark to come back. I just shot him a message. Yeah, so I agree, and I think there's just so much going on in the world, the country. I think that the longer we keep focusing on the Middle East, kind of taking our eyes off the ball in Ukraine, I think we have to keep funding Ukraine. And obviously, I think Ukraine's future will be dependent on, Trump gets in, he's going to cut aid, or no aid, or negotiate some deal with Putin. So I'm hoping that, we pray for your country and, just hope that we can continue to, focus on winning this war, which I think is detrimental, to the world order. I was asked on the radio the other day, well, why is it a big deal if Russia loses? Well, it's a big deal because, any country can come in now and invade a weaker country. So Taiwan could invade, be invaded. Other nations could be invaded. Everyone could just say, hey, I'm going to go in there and, bring in the tanks and, just throw it all out the door. And, I think we got too much at stake here. So hopefully we can continue to fight on, and
look, since 1945, the end of Second World War, all world lived by a so-called Yalta-Potsdam Agreement, which was reached by the winners of Second World War, which was US, England, and Soviet Union. Okay, the history is written by winners, and all the agreements, everything is written by winners. What happened in 1991 that one of these three winners ceased to exist. So there were only two left, England and the United States. So obviously the old world order was no longer achievable simply because one of its foundation ceased to exist. So there's only two left. So that had to be replaced by something else. And since US and all the West NATO countries were the winners of the Cold War, they had to prepare a new world order, new agreements, because the old ones were no longer valid. They failed to do it. They failed to extract from Soviet Union all the nuclear weapons. And that led to enough time for Russia to start to concentrate their efforts to build the army, to shore up their nuclear forces. And today, Russia is at the head of all the anti-American, anti-Western coalition, which includes Russia itself, China, Iran, and North Korea. And they're not that formidable enemies, except that they're acting together. They're supporting each other. Iran supplies major portion of drones to Russia, and that's why Ukraine now has a lot of difficulties in a drone war, just because of Iran. And U.S. does nothing. They sent all the weapons to Ukraine, but they did not activate the production. So basically what was available was sent to Ukraine, and there is no new weapons available in US. US is not ready for anything. They're not ready for any war. They are just, it's just despicable even to discuss what US is today. And right now, if US will not strike at its enemies at the Middle East, to confirm that they are still around, they're still a power to reckon with, That will be an enormous situation, very negative message to its enemies, unfortunately.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I think this is incredibly important, and I've got to run, guys. I got to get on an airplane. I've got to go. I'm going to miss my flight. I apologize. I've got to go somewhere, but I'll be back tomorrow. Sasha, I guess we'll close out unless Mark Lee comes back.
Okay.
I apologize. We're going to end the show today early. We'll be back tomorrow for the full hour. I've put in a request to move the time of the show, but that's been declined. So we'll continue to do this the best I can. But 10 o'clock in the morning on a Monday in the United States of America, not the best time for me to run a show. So I apologize. But, I got to keep working, right? Got to keep the unemployment rate down, right? But folks, for those of you, please dial into Sasha Starr's wonderful shows. He's got a show on Ukraine tomorrow, Modern Investing with Sasha as well. And if you have ideas, you can also just shoot us an email and contact us. I hope, Sasha, that I can come back on your show. I'd love to. And
please.
And Lee, we'll bring you in tomorrow. And so today it's been a good world edition. Just to sum up, we talked about the drone attacks killing 3 Americans. What will the president do? Talked about U.S. foreign policy. And, David Walker, Economics Monday, will be coming on at 11. So hopefully we can, I may be able to tune in for that. I just got to go get my my suit on and everything so I can get ready to board the flight. And I might get that on the car. But we'll go. Sasha, I'm so sorry we have to cut this early. I didn't want you to be staying there alone, diddling your thumbs. We'll be back tomorrow for another edition of World Edition, unless Mark Lee comes back and brings it up. Have a blessed day, everyone. Be safe wherever you are, and send us your ideas on the show so we can use this as an opportunity to work with each other and have a dialogue of what we can do to make the world a better place or insights that we can bring. And so this has been a very respectful, nice conversation. Sometimes we scream at each other. I usually don't scream very much,
Still, a quick question. Do you have a link available for David Walker show at 11?
I don't have one for today. Let me email Mark and he'll send it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Over 2 in 5 drug abusers were found to have first started their habit before they turned 18, and that's according to a survey conducted by the Institute of Mental Health, the first of its kind. Now, it involves more than 6,000 respondents. Let's take a look at some other findings. Well, more than half of the respondents cited cannabis as the first illicit drug consumed, and this is followed by what is commonly known as ecstasy. There was also a small number of people who took methamphetamines and heroin. The most frequently taken drug is cannabis. This is followed by ecstasy and methamphetamine, which we told you about earlier. That was taken by close to 20% of respondents. Around 1 in 10 cited heroin as their drug of choice.
We are very concerned that drug abuse starts at such a young age and at home, where young people should have parental supervision and be safe. Given the long-term impact of drug abuse, we need to do more to address this. We have increased efforts to educate the public, especially youth, on the harms of drugs and counter misinformation and proliferation of liberal drug views on foreign media and social media.
Now, we spoke to a former drug abuser. Let's hear what he says.
A snip here and a cut there. 34-year-old Jabez Toh is hard at work editing promotional videos, but his life today is very different from his youth.
I remember when at the age of 15, I met with a bunch of friends, which is part of a secret society. One day, I was introduced by a friend to taste some drugs. So out of curiosity, I took the drugs and tasted it.
And soon Jabez was craving his next hit and was willing to do anything to get it.
At the age of 16, I get caught of drug trafficking, which I don't even know the consequences at all. So to earn money to satisfy my craving of drugs, because I need the money to buy drugs also. So I go and sell and earn some profit.
After multiple stints in and out of prison, Jabez was eventually able to get clean from drugs with the help of the halfway house where he's currently working. To help more youths whose stories are similar to Jabez's, efforts will be reinforced. At an annual Central Narcotics Bureau work plan seminar, preventive education, especially for young people, came under the spotlight.
The youth must be taught to recognize misinformation when they see it. Getting into even a soft drug, so-called soft drug, which is, say, cannabis is thought to be, can also be very harmful because it does permanent physical and mental damage to your health. And also it can act as a gateway drug, which will then allow people to graduate on to other more potent substances.
And as such, the event also included information on anti-drug advocacy and an exhibition on cannabis and its harmful effects.
Well, like Mr. Toh, of those who had taken drugs, around a fifth of them cited curiosity as a top reason. Others believed taking drugs might help them with problems they faced. Just over 10% took drugs under the influence of friends. But most surveyed still found illicit drugs to be very harmful when consumed, especially compared with smoking or alcohol use. That's regardless of how often a drug is taken or the type of drug consumed.
Where is the international protection the Palestinian people is entitled to when the occupying power violates international law and harms those it is obliged to protect? Aren't Palestinians' lives worth saving? The Palestinian civilians killed, the Palestinian children killed in occupied Palestine could have been spared. Isn't that a moral and legal obligation and a contribution to peace? Why nothing is done when those killed are Palestinians? We need to think hard of what logic we want to see prevail here. If this is about vengeance, then many Palestinians will feel they have much to avenge. If this is about peace, then the way to it is not through further entrenching oppression and occupation, but by ending it. You cannot say nothing justifies killing Israelis and then provide justification for killing Palestinians. We are not subhumans. Let me repeat, we are not subhumans. We will never accept a rhetoric that denigrates our humanity and reneges our rights.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
Did you know that Hitler was also the Führer when it came to taking drugs? My name's Norman Ohler. I wrote a book called Blitzed, and it's about the massive use, or rather abuse, of drugs in Nazi Germany. Stage 1 is from 1936 to 41. He was basically taking vitamins and glucose. When he met Morell in 1936, who quickly became his personal physician, and Morell said, I can give you vitamin injections and you immediately will feel amazing and you will never get a cold, Hitler thought, this is my man. He woke up and he rolled back the sleeve of his pajama, and Morell came in and gave him a vitamin injection and a glucose injection, and Hitler had had his breakfast. Stage 2 started in the fall of 1941 when the war against Russia turned bad, and he started to take lots of hormones and steroids and barbiturates. He had high fever and diarrhea, so he was quite sick. They called it the Russian flu. For the first time, he got hormone injections from animals, pig liver extracts. And it actually worked. He was back in the briefing the next day, and I mean, today we would say these are doping agents. Stage 3 started in the summer of 1943, and it is when he was turning to very hard drugs. In July of 43, he had a decisive meeting with Mussolini, because Mussolini wanted to leave with Italy the evil Axis. He wanted to leave, and Hitler was very depressed about that. And Morell, on that day in July, for the first time used a drug called Eukodal, which is a half-synthetic opiate, an opioid, a pharmacological cousin of heroin, you could say, but with a much stronger euphoric momentum to it. And after a good shot of Eukodal, you feel extremely good. And this is exactly what happened to Hitler. And there's reports from that meeting with Mussolini where he just didn't stop talking and was in such a euphoric mood that he easily convinced Mussolini to stay on board. Hitler takes cocaine on over 50 occasions, and not a soft dosage of cocaine. I mean, this is pure stuff that the SS delivered. So at times he got cocaine and Eukodal in a period of a few hours, which in drug terms would be called the speedball. He used the drugs to keep his convictions that he formed when he wasn't already on drugs. He just left reality at a point when he should have realized that his delusional ideas of beating the whole world was what they were, namely delusional and totally irrational and not in touch with reality at all.
You know, so you got an extra problem to deal with. Okay,
one
more problem.
Yeah, we are ready to watch the video. So
good.
Let's see it. Let's do it.
Is hitting a new level.
This is the first international forum of defense industries. 252 defense companies producing a full range of military and defense systems are represented here.
Its purpose is to unite Ukrainian and foreign manufacturers for long-term strengthening of Ukraine's defense capability and the defense potential of its partners based on NATO technologies. There was a new Alliance of Defense Industries created, and 38 companies from 19 countries signed on it right at the forum.
We are interested in cooperation between specialized enterprises of our countries.
Ukraine's first Defense Industries Forum has struck a nerve in global security policy. The military might of the free world is being forged in Ukraine.
Right now, Ukraine fights in the biggest and the most technological war since World War II. It shields entire Europe and designates future security architecture of the whole world.
Today, we stroke 20 deals of various scales. The crucial thing is that the forum let Ukrainian companies get to know their foreign partners in order to create common projects and help the foreign companies understand that Ukraine has worthy industries capable of producing the weaponry.
Tons of weapons have already been supplied to help Ukraine fight back, but the final aim is to make it self-sufficient in defense.
Our vision is to develop military products and services of the world class and export them after the war.
So, creation, development, and production of modern weapons in the country is the key point. Ukraine has got a unique combat experience, military expertise, and technologies. Many startups in its tech sector have already switched to pursue military projects, especially in drone production. Robotech is keeping up. This Scorpio 3 robot was also designed by the Ukrainian manufacturer, can be both a fire and reconnaissance tool. Moreover, in the long-term perspective, Ukraine can manufacture weapons not only for itself, but also for other partners. Ukraine has already launched a number of important co-production projects. For instance, Stockholm and Kyiv inked a deal for joint production of Combat Vehicles 90 in Ukrainian factories. Warsaw also agreed on production of 125mm ammos by Kyiv. Turkish Baykar has already launched building a Ukraine-based plant to make Bayraktar drones. And one of Ukraine's most important backers in the fight, German Rheinmetall, is about to build a tank and APC production and repair in Ukraine in the coming months. and more is yet to come. To ramp it all up and push it to a new level, Ukraine needs the developments of its partners. Altogether, it can be a powerful tool combined with the experience of Ukraine's armed forces who have already learned to use many NATO weapons. So the Alliance of Defense Industries will help fulfill 3 major objectives: uninterrupted supply of ammunition and hardware, integration of Ukraine's military-industrial complex into the Euro-Atlantic one, and the setup of modern military inventions for Ukraine. All of it is vital to not just win over the Russian terror, but to preserve peace and prevent any aggression afterwards.
Nations have a right for protection. Let's build the arsenal for the free world together.
So it looks like I came late, and I am now seeing everything that nobody is here. So what I am going to try and do also, since there's a lot of news that happened from the Super Bowl, where the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl now. So we're going to have the Kansas City Swifties, and we're going to have San Francisco, who actually beat Detroit. So that's big news in the U.S. because, of course, the Super Bowl runs the sporting world. In terms of politics, of course, what took place with Donald Trump and his cases last week, we could have talked about those, which I was curious to hear. I wanted to hear from Sasha and his opinion on what was going on there. Same thing with Lee. I would love to hear Lee voice his ideas and opinions on how he is viewing what took place with Donald Trump and the actual cases that took place for him last week, where he now has to play E. Jean Carroll, $80+ million, unless Donald Trump actually goes and pulls up or tries to go ahead and appeal it, which he will, knowing Donald Trump. That's what he'll do. There was actually, I'll see if I can bring up a cool clip on Real Time with Bill Maher. I'm not really a huge fan of Bill Maher because he's gone on this giant, he's become more of a grumpy old man, but he actually does a good job on some nights, which I truly agree with. He actually did a piece on his new rules that I would love to show if I can pull it up really fast as I'm talking, because I had no plans on doing this right now. I was coming in to chit chat with everybody else. But it looks like everybody left already. But he did a great piece this past week on everything that's going on with the case with not only Trump, but that was 9 days ago. That's too far. Talking about democracy itself and how Trump actually is a threat to democracy. Yes, this might not be the views of everybody on this network, because there are some that will pop on and defend Trump, but that's understandable. That is what we are. We are a nation of freedoms, and we can express ourselves. Here we go. I just found it. I am going to share this out since we have just a few more minutes. This is Bill Maher who's sharing, and we'll actually talk at the same time as this is going, because this is a great piece. And we will try and break down some of the things that he is saying. Not share that screen. Let us share on this presentation. This right here. I don't want the slides. I wish I was at my normal computer, because then I could actually share on 2 monitors. Okay, so everybody, let's discuss real quick. We're going to have a little fun. We're going to talk We're going to try and listen to Bill Maher on what he says here. Oh, my goodness. It's putting me in that view. I've got to change this view. There we go. I just switched the view. We having fun now, everybody. It's just me. It's just me on this one. So, yeah, we're going to have a little bit of fun. We've got just about 5-6 minutes left. So we're going to play a little bit of this because this is great. This is very educational because this is one of the things that Bill, again, I'm not a huge fan of Bill Maher, but I think he does a good job on occasion. I used to be a big fan, but again, he went on this holier than thou thing, even though he hates religion, but they're just pieces. He tries to play the centrist, but he doesn't. He goes on a deep end on some of the things. But that's neither here nor there, because right now we're going to talk about something that I agree with him on. This was actually really good.
A new rule: in the future, all American school kids must be made to study the Constitution.
There we go.
Not ours, Brazil's.
This is
Because
great.
plainly that one is working a lot better than one we have. America ran a very clear scientific experiment with Brazil recently where we faced the exact same situation. And let's just say when it comes to democracy, we're the ones who got waxed. Brazil, you know.
Yeah, it's a low, it's a bad joke, bad setup. Delayed, everybody forgot the Brazilian wax. Oh, he had Seth MacFarlane and Stephen A. Smith and Adam Schiff on this show.
You needed to stroke the audience more on that one, I guess. So here's what happened. In 2020, American incumbent President Donald Trump, a thrice married far-right populist, lost his re-election bid and then embarked on a campaign of outright lies to convince his supporters the election had been rigged, which resulted in the siege of the American Capitol on January 6th. Fast forward almost 2 years to the day, January 8th, 2023, and Jair Bolsonaro, Brazil's thrice married far-right populist incumbent president, known as the Trump of the tropics, repeats the Trump playbook exactly after he loses his re-election bid and thousands of his supporters storm the Brazilian capital.
Again, this right here is very true. That happened. But people right now in the U.S. want to deny facts. This has happened. It was not a peaceful protest on January 6th. It was the same thing that happened in Brazil 2 years later, as Bill Maher is pointing out. Again, this is something I agree with.
Insurrections failed, but here's where we see the difference between a healthy democracy and one that's hanging by a thread. After January 8th, almost all of Brazil turned on the plotters and made Bolsonaro a pariah. But after January 6th, Trump went on to his winter palace in Florida to accept tributes and replot in opulent splendor. Bolsonaro also went to Florida, where he ate by himself at a KFC. It's a real picture.
I love you, man.
Today, only 6% of Brazilians say they support the mob that sacked their capital. But in America, Trump's more popular than ever and on track to regain power. In Brazil, not only has Bolsonaro been banned from running again anytime soon, but the country united around their new leader, who walked arm in arm with congressional leaders from the left and right in solidarity against the uprising. Arm in arm. In America, no arm in arm. Arms, yes. Plenty of that.
And again, that is what happened so far. I mean, it is just ridiculous that in Brazil, as he's pointing out, for example, yes, Bolsonaro did exactly what Trump did, but their community, their populace, their individuals in that country decided that was not right, and we're not going to have it again. In the U.S. right now, there are half of the country is saying we can do that again. Let's keep going.
And threats. Most Republicans were literally scared to death to do the right thing. They didn't want to be hung like Mike Pence or castrated like Lindsey Graham. The thing is, in Brazil, their conservative party is where ours was during Watergate, when Republicans were willing to throw Nixon under the bus because they still had ideals higher than owning the libs. So what changed? Well, part of it is structural. Their constitution is only 35 years old. Ours is 235, and it looks it. We not only still use old-timey words like gerrymandering, we still practice it. The average Republican congressman is in a safe seat with an electorate he chose himself, and he's only scared of two things: a primary opponent with more guns on his Christmas card, and getting a nickname from Trump.
All right, we'll pause it there since it is the end of the hour, or it's the top of the, or coming to the end of this hour. So we'll just close this out right now. Like I said, that new rules that he just did this past weekend, Bill Maher did, hit the nail on the head perfectly. And it is what, I know I get there, I know when I come on, there's some issues that I have with some individuals, comments, protecting, defending, but we have to get back to where we were as a country. We have to come back together. We have to realize we are one, and stop trying to divide ourselves. Like what's going on in Texas and what's going on with Trump. All that's just division. So again, we'll continue this conversation tomorrow. Make sure to tune in. I've got Sean in the background. Sean, we're going to go straight to that intro. But once again, before we go there, make sure to tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. We've got David Walker coming up at 11. We've also got a media show happening at 12 o'clock. But we'll see you later. Sean, if you can hit that outro.
Yeah.